Shabbat Shalom, everybody. So this Shabbat is called Shabbat Shuva. Some people think that it's like Teshuvah. I think I tell this story every year because Teshuvah means repentance, but it's not Teshuvah as in repentance. It's Shuva as in return, which is connected to the word for Teshuvah, but it's the beginning of the Haftarah reading, and that's why it's called Shabbat Shuva. And it's actually an appropriate. You showing everybody? Hi, everybody. You see what we could do now? How cool is this, right? So Shabbat Shuva is about return and comfort, which is especially appropriate, not just for the sake of High Holy Days, being comforted during the High Holy Days. We're in the day of awe, the days of awe, where we are, in some sense, trembling before God. You've heard me say this before, that my favorite part of the year is not always the High Holy Days, because on a regular Shabbat, God is lovey-dovey to us. And during the week, God is the kind of God that's kind of milk and cookies and say, how was your day, kind of a God, and kind of more lovey-dovey. And their High Holy Days is specifically designed to be awe and trembling before God. And so I like the kind of God that I get to have milk and cookies with more than I like the kind of God that's awe and trembling. But Shabbat Shuva still is a way of returning and knowing that we are close to God and knowing that we are comforted by God. This week, especially, I'm going to turn this off so you can see me. This week especially is a difficult Shabbat because it's also the Shabbat that commemorates the 20th, can you believe, the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. I'm sure that you all remember where you were when you heard about them. Even Max, who was 10 at the time, remember where we were when we heard about it. But I'll talk a little bit more about that. But it seems to me this concept of returning and looking for finding your way is appropriate for this week anyway. But we're also going to do some other surprising things that I didn't realize I was going to do until some of the guidelines for how we were doing the services came out. Last year, I thought I did something brilliant by saying that we were going to honor presidents, the past presidents, during Shabbat Shuva, and it worked out to be kind of awesome, I thought. We had 14 living past presidents, and almost all of them, I think all but one, participated. So one of the saddest parts for this year is that we lost 4 past presidents this year. They were all in their 90s, but it was still hard to lose them all. I think they were all already in their 90s, maybe almost 90 for one of them. But it was hard. It was really hard. And so Henry was he was our welcoming guy, and for a minute we were going to have him welcome us again, and I just couldn't watch it. I tried over and over again. I watched it, and I loved watching it. So if you want to see Henry welcome us, you may have to watch last year's service, the Shabbat Shuva service. But this year, we are going to begin our service, leave the stressors out of the room, and that's a pleasure for me to do, is to leave my stressors out of the room, and take a deep breath. And let it out slowly. Try again. And let it out slowly. And deep breaths are kind of gold these days, so appreciate that. But we begin our service with this.
Sue and Buddy, and we've both been president. It's been our pleasure to both be presidents of the temple. We want to wish everybody a very happy and healthy new year. We miss seeing our friends.
And we hope to see all of you soon on Southfield.
Okay, I'm now going to bless the candles. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvosav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
And now I'll do the wine. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei borei hagat.
Amen.
Blessed art thou, the Lord our God, the King of the universe, who could create the fruit of the vine.
Amen. It was a little bit like a ventriloquism act, wasn't it? How she was moving her mouth and he was moving his mouth. I love this, though. I love that they did that. And one of the reasons why we chose to continue and use some of the readings from last year is how poignant it was that we truly believed that we were not going to be saying the same things about can't wait to see you in person. And in some ways, we're still saying that.
Good evening. I'm Sydney, and I'm a participant in tonight's service. I have been a president of B'nai Zion, and it was my pleasure and honor to serve. This evening, Hollis Ann and I want to wish everyone a wonderful, healthy, wonderful New Year's for you and your family.
This is Bill. I just want to say that it was a pleasure to be the president of B'nai Zion congregation. I have a real attachment to B'nai Zion because this is the congregation in which I was raised, in which Helene and I were married, and in which we raised our children. There are days when we seek material things and measure failure by what we do not own.
On Shabbos, we wish not to acquire, but to share.
There are days when we exploit nature with reckless greed.
On Shabbos, we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation.
There are days when we think only of ourselves.
On Shabbos, we open our hearts to the needs of others.
Therefore, we welcome Shabbat.
Day of rest, day of joy, day of peace. And always remember, life is good.
Hi, I'm Gary, and it has been an honor to serve as president of B'nai Zion. I want to wish everyone a happy, healthy, and sweet New Year.
I'm Fred, and it was my honor to serve as past president of B'nai Zion. I want to wish everyone a happy, healthy, and sweet New Year. I really enjoyed being president, and it really changed my life for the better. The synagogue is the sanctuary of Israel. Born of our longing for the living God, it has been to Israel, throughout our wanderings, a visible token of the presence of God in our people's midst. Its beauty is the beauty of holiness. Steadfast, it has stood as the champion of justice, mercy, and peace.
Its truths are true for all people. Its love is a love for all people. Its God is the God of all people, as it has been said, "My house shall be called a house of prayer for all peoples."
Let all the family of Israel, all who hunger for righteousness, all who seek the eternal, find God here and here find life.
Hi, I'm John. It's been my honor to serve as president of B'nai Zion. On behalf of the current board, Jerry and I would like to wish each and every one of you a happy, healthy, and peaceful New Year. Oh God, how can we know you? Where can we find you? You are as close to us as breathing, yet you are farther than the furthermost star. You are as mysterious as the vast solitudes of night, yet as familiar to us as the light of the sun. To Moses you said, "You cannot see my face, but I will make all my goodness pass before you." Even so does your goodness pass before us in the realm of nature and in the joys and sorrows of life.
Hi, I am Kathy. It is my honor to serve as president of B'nai Zion. I want to wish everyone a happy, healthy, and sweet New Year. When justice burns within us like a flaming fire, when love evokes willing sacrifice from us, when, to the last full measure of selfless devotion, we demonstrate our belief in the ultimate triumph of truth and righteousness, then your goodness enters our lives and we can begin to change the world. And then you live within our hearts, and we, through righteousness, behold your presence.
Yit ויתגדל ויתקדש מרבה, אמן. בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי. בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה וזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהא שמי רבה מברך לעלם עלמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. You shall love your eternal God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your being. Set these words, which I command you this day, upon your heart. Teach them faithfully to your children. Speak of them when you lie in your home, and when you lie down and when you rise up. Bind them as a sign upon your hand. Let them be symbols before your eyes. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Be mindful of all my mitzvot and do them. So shall you consecrate yourselves to your God. I am your eternal God, who led you out of Egypt to be your God. I am your eternal God.
Hello, I'm Herb. As a past president, it is always an honor for me to wish a happy, healthy, prosperous new year to everyone. Lashana Tova.
Hi, everyone. I'm Craig. Glad to be here with you all. I look forward to really being here with you all in the future, in person. I, the Eternal One, have called you to righteousness and taken you by the hand and kept you I have made you a covenant people, a light to the nations.
We are Israel, witness to the covenant between God and God's children.
This is the covenant I make with Israel. I will place my Torah in your midst and write it upon your hearts. I will be your God, and you shall be my people.
We are Israel. Our Torah forbids the worship of race or nation, possessions or power.
You who worship gods that cannot save you, hear the words of the Eternal One. I am God, there is none else.
We are Israel. Our prophets proclaimed an exalted vision for the world.
Hate evil and love what is good. Let justice well up as waters and righteousness as a mighty stream.
We are Israel, schooled in the suffering of the oppressed.
You shall not oppress your neighbors nor rob them. You shall not stand idle while your neighbor bleeds.
We are Israel, taught to beat swords into plowshares, commanded to pursue peace.
Violence shall no longer be heard in your land, desolation and destruction within your borders. All your children will be taught of your God, and great shall be the peace of your children.
We are Israel, O God, when we are witnesses to your love and messengers of truth.
You are my witnesses, says the Eternal One, and my servant whom I have chosen. Know me, therefore, and put your trust in me.
We are Israel, O God, when we proclaim you, God our Redeemer, as did our ancestors on the shores of the Red Sea.
V'ne'emar, and it has been said, the Eternal One delivered Jacob and redeemed us from the hand of one stronger than ourselves. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. We praise you, O God, Redeemer of Israel.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. I'm Mitch. I'm one of the past presidents of B'nai Zion, a place I'm proud to have served, a place I loved, a place I love to come and participate. Molly and I want to wish everyone a happy, healthy, and sweet New Year, and one filled with peace and happiness. Shabbat Shalom. May we lie down this night in peace and rise up to life renewed. O God, spread over us your shelter of peace, of quiet and calm, and bless us with the rest. And let a time come when morning will bring no word of war or famine or anguish, a time of happiness and contentment and rest. We give thanks for the night and its rest and the promise of peace for all the world.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Eternal God, open my lips that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Leah, ve'Elohei Rachel. Ha'el hagadol hagibor v'hanora, El Elyon gomel chasadim tovim, v'koneh hakol, v'zocher chasdei avot v'imahot, u'mevi geula livnei v'neihem, למען שמו באהבה. זוכרנו לחיים, מלך חפץ בחיים, וכותבנו בספר החיים. I love that about our choir, that they know so many versions that he hits one chord and they all start singing a different version. I thought that was pretty cool, actually. Melech ozer u'moshia u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. I like hearing Virginia's laugh there.
Hi,
You may be seated.
I am Carl. I had the pleasure of being the president of B'nai Zion congregation and want to wish everyone in the congregation a happy, healthy, and sweet New Year.
Eternal is your might, O God. All life is your gift. Great is your power to save. With love you sustain the living. With great compassion give life to all. You send help to the falling and healing to the sick. You bring freedom to the captive and keep faith with those who sleep in the dust. Who is like you, mighty one, author of life and death, source of salvation? Who is like you, source of mercy? In compassion you sustain the life of your children. We praise you, O God, the source of life. Our God, God of our fathers and our mothers, may our rest on this day be pleasing in your sight. Sanctify us with your mitzvot, and let your Torah be our way of life. Satisfy us with your goodness, gladden us with your salvation, and purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, eternal God, let your holy Sabbath remain our heritage, that all Israel, hallowing your name, may find rest and peace. We praise you, O God, for the Sabbath and its holiness. Be gracious, eternal God, to your people Israel, and receive our prayers with love. O may our worship always be acceptable to you. Fill us with the knowledge that you are near to all who seek you in truth. Let our eyes behold your presence in our midst and in the midst of our people in Zion. We praise you, O God, whose presence gives life to Zion and all Israel. We gratefully acknowledge that you are our God and the God of our people, the God of all generations. You are the rock of our life, the power that shields us in every age. We thank you and sing your praises for our lives, which are in your hand, for our souls, which are in your keeping, for the signs of your presence we encounter every day, and for your wondrous gifts at all times, morning, noon, and night. You are goodness, your mercies never end. You are compassion, your love will never fail. You have always been our hope. For all these things, O sovereign God, let your name be forever exalted and blessed. Let life abundant be the heritage of all the children of your covenant. O God, our Redeemer and Helper, let all who live affirm you and praise your name in truth. Eternal God, whose nature is goodness, we give you thanks and praise. O sovereign source of peace, let Israel, your people, know enduring peace. For it is good in your sight to bless Israel and all peoples continually with your peace. Inscribe us in the book of life, blessing and peace. We praise you, O God, the source of peace.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Lo'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Lo'olam. Ki atahu melech adon lekol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lekol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Lo'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Lo'olam. V'tov b'necha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'kol age u'b'kol sha'ah b'shlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Lo'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim L'olam Tasim L'olam Tasim L'olam.
There are many things that we've come to our service about which we needed to pray. Up until now, all of the prayers have been words that have been given to us by tradition, by poets, by sages. At this point in our service, we take a moment to pray silently whatever is in our hearts. We take a moment of silent prayer. Yihiu leratson.
May the words of my mouth
Imre fi vehegyon libi
and the meditations of my heart
lefanecha
be acceptable to you.
Lefanecha
be acceptable to you.
Adonai Tzuri,
God, my rock,
Tzuri v'gohali,
my rock and my redeemer.
Adonai Tzuri,
God, my rock,
v'gohali,
and redeemer.
So I said I was going to talk a little bit about 9/11. And we all remember where we were, what we were doing, some of the frightening things that happened because of that day. I was at school volunteering when we heard about it. And then I came here to teach. And I knew that no planes were supposed to be flying. I was teaching an adult class. And I was in the religious school wing. And I was teaching a class, and all of a sudden we heard planes flying overhead. And we all, who grew up in a certain era, hit the deck. We went under the tables like that was going to protect us. And we realized later that that was Air Force One coming into Barksdale. But it was frightening. I don't remember ever being so frightened in some level and helpless in another. Remember how everybody was like lining up to try to give blood to see if they could help, and that there was no one that they could help with blood. You do realize that even to today, there are people who are still losing their lives because of consequences of 9/11. And I don't just mean other kinds of battles and conflicts. I mean the people who were there, who had breathed in the dust. My mom was living in Rockland County, and every day there was dust on all of her furniture in her house. Every day for months and months and months and months. But so many lives were lost. Thousands of people died. Thousands in one day. I wanted to share with you one little story. One obituary. Make this a sweet story. Ira Lassman said the other day, about one little kernel of a human being whose life will be sorely missed. He was talking about his son Nicholas, who worked for the E-Speed unit of Cantor Fitzgerald. He was 28 years old. Nicholas's life had been like a sailboat, catching the right breeze here and there, and always being led to a happy situation. He'd been a golf pro at clubs in Florida and New York before teaching himself computer programming. That turned into a temporary job at Morgan Stanley and then a full-time job at E-Speed. In between, he learned Russian and German and the guitar, all on his own. He lived in an apartment in Cliffside Park, New Jersey, and loved his job, where his boss, Abul Chowdhury, was also his best friend. He was bright beyond his years, his father said. He had a charming smile and a quick wit. People flocked to him. At a memorial that was held for him, the 400 mourners included a row of caddies from the Alpine Country Club, where his parents were members and where he had once worked as a caddy. He never hung out with the members, Mr. Lastman remembered. He always hung out with the caddies. This was published October 20th, 2001. Jennifer shared this with me. He was a member at the congregation where I had worked and she had grown up, and he was 28 years old. So he's the age of our kids. And one little story among the thousands. The pain is too enormous to try to remember it all. We do. We try. At different years, we try reading off all the names. 10 years ago, I had a service. I don't know how many of you were there. 10 years ago, I had a little service. It was on a weekday. I didn't do the main service on Shabbat. And I didn't want it to turn into a media thing. I didn't want them to I didn't feel like being on display. And we had a Muslim chaplain and a Christian pastor, and Sergeant Mary was with us. And people from each of those communities sat with us in the sanctuary. And we talked. We prayed and we talked. We talked about what we remembered, and we talked about what we wanted to remember. We talked about how proud we all are to be part of America. The Muslim chaplain, I think, surprised everybody when he said he was a veteran, an American veteran, and so were his children. And he brought an imam with him, who, after the service was over, his English was pretty terrible. And after the service was over, he started to cry, and he said to me, anyone who looks at me, because he's in this head-to-toe white garb you look at him and you know that he's Muslim, and he said, anyone who looks at me and thinks that I don't love this country, he said, I tried to escape my old country, and all the Arab countries refused me, and America took me in. Anyone who thinks that I could do anything to this country, because you know what happened. People started looking suspiciously at all Muslims, all Arabs, just because there were Arabs who were the terrorists involved in this. And so I felt that it was important for us to come together as Christians and Jews and Muslims, and we prayed together. The church that was with us that day no longer exists. It's the church that's across from Uri Middle School, and they took that down. Things change, things come down, and my heart hurts every time I drive by there, thinking about how important we were in each other's lives at various moments. But that was already 10 years ago. It is hard to believe. And I pray that we are moving forward in our lives as far as the world is concerned. Some days I'm not so convinced. But then we come to a Shabbat called Shabbat Shuva, because it's a Shabbat of consolation in the middle of these days of awe. And the Torah portion that we read from says these words over and over again. Be strong and of good courage. Fear not, nor be afraid, for Adonai, your God, is indeed the Eternal One who goes with you. God will not fail you or forsake you. I find comfort in knowing that we have each other, that we have our community, and that there is strength in hope. So we need to remember. So instead of making somebody come up, I'm going to just try as quickly as I can to say announcements tonight. I've got an Oneg Shabbat tonight on Zoom afterwards. It begins about half an hour after tonight's service ends. The website gives you the details about the Zoom. Tomorrow morning at 9:45 we have Torah study. We'll be learning more about that Torah portion. And then at 11 to 12 we have a service. We have a lovely little group that's been getting together for the past year and a half. Saturday mornings, I think I've told you this before, at least 7 states are represented, including many of my siblings. You want to see how Maria's doing? You might see her tomorrow. Come on to the Zoom and see how she's doing. And join us. Oneg Shabbat and tomorrow morning's Zoom. This Sunday, the North Louisiana Jewish Federation is sponsoring a wonderful live concert by the Jerusalem Youth Chorus on Sunday. You can watch it at noon with a watch party starting at 11:30 at the Robinson Film Center. Watch at home. The tickets are $20 per household. That's what gives you access to the service, to the concert. But we saw a preview. We saw the group. How many of you saw that? Where they sang for us. This is a group of teens who are Jews and Palestinians, Muslims, Christians, Jews, Israelis, and they get together every week. They have a few hours each week. Many of them had never spoken to them before. And they have a unique way of dealing with these conversations where every single time someone speaks, everything has to be translated either by themselves, if they know the other languages, or by someone else. Every time someone speaks, it has to be said in Hebrew, in Arabic, and in English to make sure that everyone understands what's going on. And they will be speaking with us. Some of the concert is live from Jerusalem at the time. Some of the concert is pre-recorded. This is a concert of music that these teens wrote themselves to try to express how they were feeling, and it will, I promise it's going to be a powerful thing. So I hope that some of you will take advantage of this. I appreciate that the Jewish Federation here is now a sponsor for that choir. We hope to continue to do that forever. And they're going to be doing some programming for our kids over the year, for the children and things, so it promises to be wonderful. Sunday at noon, no football game then, I don't think. I checked. I think we're good. All right, if I take a deep breath, Yom Kippur, Kol Nidre is this Wednesday night. Service is at 7:30. Yes, Elliot will be here playing cello for you. Spencer will still be doing music, singing as our cantorial soloist. Adam Philly and the High Holy Day Choir will also be providing the music. Yom Kippur morning service is at 10 a.m. All of this is here in this room and on YouTube. Children's service is at 11:30. It's not the time that we mentioned last week. Please read the email about where and how to meet for that. From 1 until 2, not the same time as we mentioned last week. Helene and I are going to be doing a study session on Zoom, so it's not going to be in person, on Zoom from 1 to 2. Afternoon service begins at 2:30, again in person, wearing a mask, or on YouTube you can watch it. The memorial service should begin, I think, at around 3:45, if our predictions work correctly. Again, in person with a mask, or on Zoom. On YouTube, not Zoom, YouTube. The concluding service should begin somewhere around 4:30. Again, in person with a mask, or on YouTube. And if you noticed, all of the YouTube services are already posted for live sessions, and I did that because you needed to have that email, because if you rely on trying to go through the links on the B'nai Zion website, you may not be successful. Last year, Shul Cloud crashed. They've got over 1,000 congregations, and everybody wanted access at the same time. We were luckier than most. Many congregations use High Holy Days as fundraising opportunities, and people couldn't click through and make donations. It was a disaster for them, but we're good on that. That's not what we use our High Holy Days for. But the concluding service, as I said, starts at about 4:30. The shofar blast should happen sometime around 5:15, and we intend to also do a blast outside. We did that. It was successful for Rosh Hashanah as well. That was kind of fun, so you could drive by then. Memorial books, I wanted to point out, they will be ready during the week. You'll have access to the PDF. If you can, request how many copies you want so we know how many to print for you, but they'll be available in the office ahead of time. They'll be available at services, or we're mailing some to people. You saw the emails. After Yom Kippur, we have sukkah building and sukkah decorating on September 19th in the evening. On the 24th, we have a service that's going to do Sukkot, Simchat Torah, cadences bat mitzvah, consecration, Shabbat, of course. Saturday morning, September 25th, Cadence is also going to be called to the Torah at Agudath Achim because she's a member of both congregations. So we will not have Torah study or service that morning, so we can all be at Agudath Achim celebrating with them. All of these services also are on YouTube. Did you notice Red River Radio has lots of wonderful High Holy Day programs again? And did you know, somebody said, someone who should have known better, who should have been paying attention more, because we talk about it sometimes. There's a program called About Faith that airs every other Sunday at 1 o'clock that I'm on. It's part of a group of clergy, interfaith clergy and spiritual leaders. Last week, it was about not this past weekend, the weekend before, it was about High Holy Days, and I got to do most of the whole hour on my own. This month, I am not going to be on at all because I think they did the recording on Rosh Hashanah, so don't expect to hear me this month. Wait till next month and I should be back again. But every other week, and you can listen to the programs that already aired. This year, our mitzvah projects include bringing food or funding for the Food Bank Backpacks for Children program, bringing books for children or adults. We're also collecting toiletries, as you know, for the women's shelter. There are bins in the foyer, or you could drop them off during the week. Remember that the office is closed for all Jewish holy days. Yom Kippur, first and last day of Sukkot. Office hours are back to 9 to 2. And in case you didn't know, we had a trip scheduled in October for the Museum of Southern Jewish Living in New Orleans, but for obvious reasons we have had to postpone that indefinitely. We're still expecting to do that, but we're not going to try to travel to New Orleans right now for that. Have a happy, healthy, safe, and sweet New Year. Donations were made to B'nai Zion Sisterhood Flower Fund in loving memory of Stephen Muslow by Marian family, in loving memory of Dr. Donald Rosen by Gloria Rosen, Drs. Lane and Maury Rosen, and Mr. and Mrs. Larry Avinsky. At this time in our service, I'm going to ask you to please rise as the ark is open. I'm going to try to see if I can do this. Magic, please rise. As we read through Aleinu, I don't know how many people notice what it says, but it says, Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon hakol, ours is the duty to praise the all-sovereign, to honor the artist of creation, who made us unique in the human family with a destiny all of our own. For this, we bend our knees and bow with gratitude before the sovereign Almighty, monarch of all, the wellspring of holiness and blessing. Did that turn? Who spread out the sky and fashioned the land, who dwells in beauty far beyond sight, whose powerful presence is the loftiest height. You are our God, there is none else. We take as true your sovereignty, there is no other, as Torah teaches. Embrace and carry in your heart this day, in heaven above, on earth below, the eternal is God, there is no other. As the prophet announced, the eternal shall be sovereign over all the earth. On that day, the eternal shall be one, and God's name shall be one. V'ne'emar, v'haya Adonai, l'melech al kol ha'aretz. Bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad. When the ark is closed, you may be seated. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. Did you know anyone who lost their lives during 9/11? Did you know anyone who knew anyone? Were we very disconnected in Shreveport? We honor the memories of those who died this year in the military, police, firefighters, healthcare, and we add those who were our servers in the supermarkets and the restaurants. We honor the memories of those who died in floods and fires and those who died of COVID-19. We remember the parents of people connected to the congregation who died this past year. We remember Robert Talbert, Joseph Paris, Artis Robison, George Rothkopf, Henry Brenner, Ron Riley, and Fred Phillips. We remember these people for whom your site we're observing this past week, including Hyman Batt, Albert Clark, Leslie Robert Cruvant, Esther Guggenheim, Edward Samuel Klein, Carol Larrocade, Elma Harold Law, Esther Mandel, Amy Marcus, Charlton Meyer Jr., Goldie Morris, Stephen Eugene Muslow, Evelyn Redstone, Dr. Donald Yale Rosen, Elmer Simon, Henrietta Rosen Simon, Rebecca Siegel Stadium, Sam Vedlitz, Edward Weil, Louis Weinstein Esquire, Bertha G. Wiseman, Earl Loeb Weiner, and Donald Zadig Jr. Zichronam Livracha, may their memories be for a blessing. As we remember them, let us meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. Let it not be said, death will come. Its hand will not be stayed even an instant, nor can we enter into judgment with it. Our question, why, will go unanswered. But this does not mean that we are helpless in the face of death. We can and we do rob death of ultimate victory by living life as long as it is ours to live. To ask of death that it never come is futile, but it is not futility to pray that when death comes for us, it may take us from a world, one corner of which is a little better because we were there. When we're dead and people weep for us and grieve, let it be because we touched their lives with beauty and simplicity. Let it not be said that life was good to us, but that we were good to life. In this moment of memory, our griefs and sympathies are mingled. Loving God, we rise as together we praise your name. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Be'alma divra chiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh. B'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach la'alam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei d'kudsha b'richu. La'ela u'la'ela mikol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace bestow peace on all who mourn, and may we be a source of comfort to all who are bereaved. Amen. Please be seated. I'm afraid that if I push the button, it's going to start to sing. We're going to let it sing. I realize that there are things, important things, that we left out of the service, and I'm going to not forget them, but we may wind up singing first. Cheerful song.
הרחמן הוא ינחילנו יום שכולו שבת ומנוחה. 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 הרחמן הוא ינחילנו יום שכולו שבת ומנוחה.
Because it was so cheerful. We needed that. So the part that I forgot, there were a few things that we forgot, and it's all on me. Max did a wonderful job of doing what he was supposed to do in putting this together, but there were things I forgot. But before we do a concluding blessing, benediction, our hearts and prayers turn to those who are ill, recuperating, dealing with the consequences of COVID-19 or confinement, coping with disasters, recent death of loved ones, dealing with hurricanes, with storms, with fires. If you have someone for whom you would like us to be praying, I invite you to call out names. And for us, and we say, El na rafa na lanu. God, please heal, please us. El na rafa na lanu. God, please heal, please us. I invite you to please rise for the closing benediction. Make sure you help me bless each other here. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you. May God protect you. Yair Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May the light of God's face shine upon you, be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God's face be lifted up to you. God has a lot to look up to you about, and may God grant you peace. Shabbat shalom. Thank you for being here. See you again on Yom Kippur. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Stay sweet. We do a challah blessing during the Oneg Shabbat, so maybe we'll see you for that. Wasn't that a fun song? Oh, we did light candles. You missed it.